Here are the rest of the notes for section 4.6, day 2. So here we just talked about domain and what it meant. So now what we're going to do is we're going to solve this equation, or this logarithmic equation. We have log of 2 of x plus log of x minus 5 equals 2. Now remember, whenever we solve logs, we can only have two options. We can have logs on either side of the equation, and they have the same base, or we'll have one log and it's set equal to a number. Now if we notice here, we have two logs and it's set equal to a number. So what we're going to do is use some math manipulation so we can get down to one log. Now notice here we have a plus. If we want to condense this, we're going to use our log properties. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have our log, and because we have addition, we're going to use multiplication to condense. We'll have 2x times x minus 5, and that'll be set equal to 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to distribute the 2x to both the x and the 5. So now I have log of 2x squared minus 10x. And that'll equal 2. Now, in order to solve like we've done before, we have to rewrite this in exponential form. Now, notice here that we don't have a base. That means our base is going to be 10. So this is really log base 10. Now, rewriting it in exponential form. So rewrite in exponent form. We take our base, which is 10. So we have 10. Now our exponent is going to be 2. And then we set it equal to 2x squared minus 10. Now let's go ahead and simplify this. So we now have 100. So we have 100 equals 2x squared minus 10x. And notice here we have a squared. This indicates that we have a quadratic function, okay, or a quadratic equation. Now there are multiple ways that you can solve here. You can either use completing the square, you can use factoring, or quadratic formula. I would advise either using quadratic formula or factoring. Now in order to do that, we have to make sure that our equation is set equal to 0. Now we always want to try to make sure that our x squared is positive because it makes it easier for both using the quadratic formula and for factoring. So we're going to move the 100 over. So we have 2x squared minus 10x and then minus 100, and that'll be set equal to 0. Now you could try this with the quadratic formula, but I'm going to tell you right now that we can factor this. In order to do that, you can see that they have all of these have a 2 in common. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to simplify. So now I have, once again, 0 equals, now x squared minus 5x minus 50. Now if you want to go ahead and try to factor this on your own, I highly suggest that. You can always pause the video to do that. We're going to go ahead and factor this. So once again, I have 0 equals, okay. Now notice that in this case, 5 and 10 will work. So we'll have x, and then we'll have minus 10, and then x plus 5. Once we factor, we now just solve for x. We have x equals 10, and x equals negative 5. Now remember, as I said, that we can get extraneous solutions. That means these are solutions that do not work. What we're going to do is we're going to take each of our x values and replug it back into our original equation. So let's say we plug in 10. So that was one of ours. So we do 2 times 10, we get 20. Well, that's something, a positive value inside our parentheses. So we're good to go there. If we plug 10 into this x, we get 10 minus 5. Well, once again, we get 5, and we get a positive value. So that means x equals 10, that does work. Okay, let's try x equals negative 5. So we plug negative 5 in for x here. We have 2 times negative 5. But notice that gives us negative 10. It is not a positive value. Remember, we can only have positive numbers inside the parentheses of our log. That means here that x equals negative 5 is an extraneous solution, so it does not work. So in this case, we only have one solution, x equals 10. Sometimes when you do these problems, especially in your homework, it is possible that the only answer you get, it does not work. If that happens, it might be a no solution deal, okay? Okay, let's get into our last problem here. So our word problem is, it says the apparent magnitude of a star is a measure of the brightness of the star as it appears to observers on Earth. The apparent magnitude m of the dimmest star that can be seen with a telescope is given by the function. So we have m equals 5 times log of d plus 2, where d is the diameter in millimeters of the telescope's objective lens. If a telescope can reveal stars with a magnitude of 12, so notice that, what is the diameter of the objective lens? Now here, know that we are given the magnitude, okay? Well, magnitude in our equation is represented by m. So what I'm going to do is plug 12 in for m. So now I have 12 equals 5 times log of d plus 2. Now, I think a really good idea is if you try this on your own, so you can solve for, in this case, d. So go ahead and pause the video, try this on your own to see if you can get it. Okay, hopefully you paused the video and tried. If you got stuck, no worries. We're going to go over this. Now, whenever we're doing this, remember, we have to get log all by itself. So the first thing is I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So now I get 10 equals 5 times log of d. Now we got to continue to get log all by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 5. So now I have 2 equals log of d, okay? Now remember, in order to solve this, here we have log equals a number. So what we have to do is rewrite this in exponential form. Now notice, once again, we don't have a base here, so that is assumed that our base is 10. So rewriting this in our exponential form, we have base of 10, and then 2 is our exponent, and we set equal to d. Now you should know we have to set equal to d, because what are we trying to do? We're trying to solve for it. So it wouldn't make sense to make d an exponent where we're trying to solve for it. Okay, so let's go ahead and simplify this. So we do 10 squared, that gives us 100. And make sure you look back up at your problem to notice that d and the label is in millimeters. So that means our final answer is 100 millimeters. And then this would be your answer. If you have any questions on any of the following examples or anything from your homework, make sure you come in before or after school to get that help.